Actually, you don't have to
Is it
share
from the-
anything.
I'll share it on my personal.
Is it
Yeah, there you
from the Unipiper page?
It is from the Unipiper page.
From the page of the Unipiper.
Unipiper. Barely newer.
Oh yeah. Alright. Uh-oh, I think it's doing that thing where it's posting as the Unipiper. No,
Don't do that.
don't do that. I keep doing that. I keep liking all the Unipiper things as the Unipiper. Alright, I'm ready.
Okay, so I'm going to post to Portland Movies.
Oh, okay.
Facebook Live needs a countdown to a live video. You can give yourself
Oh, that
like
would
a
be a
5-minute
good
buffer.
idea.
Yeah, they do a 3-second. That's all you get.
Yeah.
And go.
Total reality. And hi everybody.
Hello! It's true that no one watching. I wonder if our audio is bad. this time.
We have 65 people watching.
Hello, 65 people. Is that the power of the Unipiper?
That is. Unipiper is
Pure,
awesome.
unadulterated Unipiper.
Debbie says, love you, dude.
I will move this out of the way,
Steven
by the way.
Caution says, Unipiper is awesome.
Than's, guys.
And
You're all awesome too.
Yes, the Unipiper's in the middle. by
Does
the way.
everybody hear our audio okay? Let us know if the audio is not perfect.
We'll
Alright,
be
are we ready?
starting very shortly now.
Yes.
Say hi to Jim.
Hey, Jim.
Alright, you ready?
Yeah, we are recording on
Okay.
all fronts.
Ryan, you ready?
I am set.
Alright.
Is the audience ready for Portland in the movies?
Sounds great.
I'm
Stella says we
imagining
sound
cheering.
great.
Alright. What if you took the best parts of Total Recall, Back to the Future, The Terminator, and Star Trek 4, and then put those parts aside, and then took the bad parts that suck and made a movie out of that? You'd get a 1997's Portland filmed Total Reality.
We're gonna go right there, aren't we?
Hello and welcome to another episode of Portland at the Movies. I am one of your hosts, Todd Workoven, and I am here with Mark Middleton. How are you, Mark?
I'm really well.
And I am also here with Brian Kidd, the Unipiper. How are you today, Brian?
Doing great. I just watched Total Reality.
Of course, yes, and I did kind of front load it with my favorite quote from the movie, which was the one we just played.
I'm glad it wasn't the same as my favorite quote.
Okay, good. Yeah, so we'll have some surprises coming down the road. Well, this movie is a follow-up to not a follow-up, I guess, but it's made by the same guy who on this movie also wrote, produced, directed, and he did something else. Oh, and the story and the screenplay. By was this guy named Philip J. Roth, and he also did that for our last movie that we reviewed, which was Fatal Revenge. And this movie came out in 1997, and I did we confirm that this was made for Sci-Fi or just ended it? Because I know the director has gone on to make a lot of movies for the Sci-Fi Channel.
No,
and I didn't know.
I think this was just a direct-to-video.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So we'll get. I'll hand it over to you, Brian, to kind of give kind of what the story is about, and we'll just kind of dig. We'll just kind of dig right in.
Yeah, in a nutshell, Total Reality takes place 200 years in the future, and in the future, Earth has been.
But also 1998.
Mm-hmm.
We get to 1998.
Yeah.
But when it starts, the population of Earth has been annihilated, and everyone who is still alive is on spaceships. And there are two factions. There is the controlling party called the Bridgists.
Bridgists.
And they are a military, political party, fascist, dictating,
Culty.
running all of surviving humanity. And they are chasing the rebels. which are the free spirit, freedom-loving fighters who are fighting for freedom and all of those good values that we forgot about. Anyways, so what happens is 2 of the rebels escape in a time ship, and they travel to 1998 to Portland, Oregon,
Right.
where the person who started the Bridgist movement was from, and he lived in Portland in 1998. They're going to travel in time to kill him to prevent the rise of the Bridgists and hopefully save the population of Earth. Now, that in and of itself is plenty for a plot to a movie. But no, what really happens is we also send a group of the Bridgists back in time.
Oh, but is it a ragtag group?
It is a ragtag group on a suicide mission.
There we go.
So we have four people from the Bridgist who are all criminals, and they've been imprisoned by the Bridgist because of crimes they've committed. But they all have a military background, and it is their mission to stop the rebels from killing John Bridges because they want to preserve their totalitarian way of life. And it's hard to figure out who to root for.
Yes.
Because you have the people who are trying to save the population of Earth and save Earth, and then you have the people who are trying to stop them from doing that. And
It's like killing the person who was sent back to kill Hitler.
right,
Is basically
Yes.
the plot of this movie. And our heroes want to
Precisely.
kill Hitler, and our heroes want to kill the person who is sent back to kill Hitler.
So who do you root
I
for?
didn't
in
realize that
instance?
until like 3/4 of the way through the movie, and I'm like, what is their plan if they're
Right. So it's set up where you're going to root for the people who are trying to stop the person from killing Hitler.
yeah.
And do you root for them? They're your main characters.
Yeah, so this movie, I think the first thing that struck me was that it was not near the B movie that our last movie, Fatal Revenge, was, which was obviously a shoestring budget. This was like a legitimate. There was like, I thought the space battles, I thought they were legitimately good. I thought they looked great.
They were on the level of something like Babylon 5.
Yeah, and this was
at the time.
1997. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
there was a couple. I mean, there's a lot of bad special effects, but I thought they must have poured all of their money into those space shots because I thought they
the
were pretty
space
good.
shots and the explosions, like just like
You could-
Fatal Revenge. This movie had ridiculous
With all of that
explosions.
shrapnel coming
You
at
could
you.
easily tell it was a Philip Roth joint.
Yeah,
That's his signature.
signature.
And then you see that explosion from like 5 different angles.
Yeah, it's repeated. It's looped.
With people in the cast legitimately fleeing in terror for their lives.
Yeah, there's no acting going
Okay,
on.
let's talk about that explosion. There's one in there, and it's just like Fatal Revenge, it is a house blowing up again. And did you notice that when the people are, like, whenever there's an explosion, you usually see people fly through the air. In this case, the people were so close to the explosion, the lady's coat actually catches on fire.
I didn't see that.
Oh, I
Oh my
didn't see it catch on fire.
But they are leaping from a balcony, a
Her-
legitimate second-story balcony, without wires or like. There's no special effects to them jumping off.
And
of,
she is making a face. Catherine, is that her name? Kate or
Kathy.
Kathy. She is making a face in the house, not the one where they jump off the balcony, but when they're running across the lawn. That her face just looks terrified for her life. But yeah, that is a total signature of this guy. And they were really good explosions. I felt really scared and really invested in them.
You get the low angle and you see pieces of the house coming towards the camera, and it is just, again, this was a real building that they had to find.
I wonder if it was another abandoned one. That they had
Tax
to-
write-off.
Totally.
I was thinking when I was watching this, much like when we watched Fatal Revenge, it was in German. I was thinking if we could somehow pay to have this movie translated into German. And
We'll give it to the guy who's translating Fatal Revenge from German, and we'll give this one to
translate into
German.
But then I found it on Amazon.de. It's already on DVD, and you can
Really?
get it in German.
He's huge in Germany, as Norm Macdonald used to say.
No, overall, I was thoroughly entertained with this movie. Maybe more so than any other movie we've watched on this show.
How do you put it on the Fatal Revenge scale?
Well-
Like, did you enjoy it more or less?
It depends what you're watching it for. This is much more of a coherent movie.
Yep.
It actually has some interesting plot ideas.
Yes, it does.
I can't say they were original, but it took so many pieces of so many different movies that you hadn't seen them all in one movie before. So, I mean, there was, you mentioned them in your intro, Todd.
Yeah, Terminator, Back to the Future.
Let's dissect that a little
Okay.
bit more. Back to the Future, like the scene when our team is getting ready to the Hitler killers, we'll call them.
Yeah, okay,
They're
good.
getting ready to travel back in time to stop the assassination of Hitler, in this case, John Bridges. But one of the crew members says to the other, like, or they have that tag, and they're like, "This is the list of all of the stock prices."
Yeah, they were totally doing the Biff.
Yeah.
I wrote that down. I'm like, oh, he's totally doing the Biff Tannen, where
Yeah.
he's going to go back and
And-
bet the pools.
And they never mention that again.
Well, because they step in, because their plan was to stay there. And that's when the captain guy's like, and if any of you guys are thinking of staying here, we put this implant in your neck so that, you know, you'll die if you don't come back. And so then they're like, oh, shucks, or whatever they did.
I got confused because the main assassin, whose name was Rand,
The main character, yeah,
yes,
Rand.
played by David Bradley, American Ninja.
American Ninja.
If you've seen any of those films, American Ninja 3 through 5, this is the same star, David Bradley.
Who is, in this movie, conservatively 45 years old, I would say.
It was the next to last film in his career.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
So-
is not a young man, as evidenced by the super slow motion and painful looking roll over the pool table in the quote unquote action scene coming up.
But
He rolls as if he is made of lead. And then they play it in slow motion, so it just looks like a sad old man who fell over on the table as people were shooting at him.
But he also has this scene where he has like a necklace that his father gave him, and it looks very similar to like the stock prices chip. So later in the movie, when he's giving this necklace to a girl, he's like, "I want you to have this." I'm like, I want you to have these stock prices.
That's funny. Well, and then they introduce us to all those people by, like, as they're. So they're all in jail, and they all get pulled out to go on this special mission, this Suicide Squad mission, as you mentioned. Oh yeah, that's another movie.
Suicide Squad, or like the Dirty Dozen.
Yeah.
You know, it's a suicide mission essentially.
Yeah, and they pull them out of their cells, and they just read like a page of exposition about the characters,
Their
about
backstory.
each of them.
They
They're
probably
not
just
on trial or anything. They're just standing there.
it's the backstory they gave to the actors to get in character. I'm just gonna read this.
Now we know how they made all their choices.
So they do travel in times, and they are, whether you're looking at the assassins or the rebels, somebody is traveling in time to kill someone, to prevent the future. So, you know, right there's Terminator.
Yeah.
And this movie came out in '97. When did Terminator 2 come out?
92 or 93.
3. So, you know, by the time they got the script together and the money together, I'm sure this was in direct response to...
Oh, sure. Like a
Terminator.
money grab.
Yeah,
Sure.
but by that point, Star Wars was coming out and the special editions had come out. So my thought is that they wanted to cash in on Terminator, but tastes were shifting more towards space at the time. So
That makes
they
sense.
wanted to make Terminator in space.
That makes total sense. Yeah, I can see that.
Star Trek 4.
in space.
And I got some Star Trek 4 in there too, because they come to Earth, to the past, the late 20th century.
Oh, that's true. They don't say the whales are invent.
But they're with a lady companion of the time, much like Star Trek 4.
Yeah,
Huh.
that's true.
Yep.
Oh, I haven't seen that movie in a long time. I wonder if that holds up. Or is it good in the... It was an even numbered one. Aren't those the good ones?
It was.
Yeah.
I watched it last year. It held up fine.
Okay. Fine.
It's
There are no
colorful
problems.
metaphors.
True. So, at what point are we here? Because
What else stood out to you in this movie?
What stood out to me and what I was obsessed with is that one of the 4 Suicide Squad members, one of the 4 prisoners that they used to kill the Hitler killers, is a woman named
Wingate?
Wingate. Yeah, that's right. And her hair is
And makeup.
and makeup
Is-
are
She
ridiculous.
looks like a clown.
She looks like a clown, and her hair. The first time you see her, she has, I would say, maybe shoulder-length dark hair, has a huge bouffant hairdo that continues to change throughout the movie into different styles, different amount of curls, different, and yeah, she
Looks like she was. She left the auditions for Hairspray, and made time for this movie between auditions for Hairspray.
I know when that happened is when they all took a bath. That's when she had time to fix up.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! So yes, this.
Did I take a bath first?
They look at when the commanding officer, whoever that guy is, not I wrote down not quite Matt Dillon because he looked like Matt Dillon and he has this weird facial hair, but is telling the prisoners that they have to go on this mission no matter what, and that's what they're doing. And our hero guy Rand, who again is conservatively 50 years old, stands up in front of him, and they make this weird eye contact, and he goes, "Can I take a bath first?" Or you.
And then scene.
And then then that's the end of the scene. It was so weird.
Everything he said was weird. He had some other lines like that.
It's
just
like they
seemed
were
really out of place.
catchphrases, but from a different movie. And they had them laying around.
Yeah.
And yeah, can we take a bath first? That was after they made eyes at each other.
As you can imagine, this movie did not rank well on IMDb. It had a 4.4.
That's a
and
shame.
I read all 15 user reviews today, and the
15 people took time out of their lives. Well, I guess I would make fun of them, but here we are taking time out of our lives.
3 of us at once. The very few positive comments were said, but overwhelmingly, if something positive was said about this movie, it was generally how beautiful that woman was. Wingate.
No.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, and she's very beautiful, very pretty.
Wow, that must have been. She was designed for a very specific audience. Maybe she was, but her clownish mid-90s makeup were pretty amazing. Oh, and then they did a couple bad movie tropes, and the very first one is right out of the gate where they have this scene. So the Hitler character in this movie is a self-help guru, and he writes this book or whatever that becomes the basis, basically kind of an Ayn Rand, the individual is the most important thing type book or whatever. And the first scene is him having a book reading, a book signing. They're in the middle of a gigantic...
The Montgomery Building.
And is that the
Yeah.
R2-D2
Yep.
building?
Yeah.
Okay, that's by Chinatown.
No. Montgomery Building out by, yeah.
One
Oh,
of
Montgomery
23rd.
Park.
the one of the big
Montgomery
letters
Park.
that
Okay,
says
sorry.
Montgomery Park.
Okay, that's the building they're in.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so yeah, it's a big open space, like, and they're all seated in, all these people are sitting in chairs, and the author's what you would presume to do, like doing a corporate reading or something. But then, as they're all wrapping up, and he says, he gives some terrible platitude, but he goes, same time next week. I don't understand what is happening. Why are they having a book club, and then they're all like having him sign his book, and they're doing this every week in the middle of an office building?
We learned that he is a motivational speaker.
Right.
That kind of the core tenet of his leadership are creating these cell groups that get referenced.
Right. He's my third group or whatever,
Yeah,
second stage or something
I don't
like that.
remember what the name of the group that he.
So this was one of the cell groups then.
Yeah, and so it did
Why
have.
are they
It did
meeting in the
look.
lobby then?
Oh, so do you think maybe he travels and sets up these groups, and so he was
Yeah.
like, "You guys be here next week. I'm gonna go set up another one."
Right. Yeah. It was very much like cult following kind of. It wasn't authorship. It wasn't about him being an author and celebrity of being an author.
I just thought it was a strange choice to do it in the open lobby of a giant.
Totally.
of a
And
giant
what they
building.
were, I think, I only am supporting this because I've seen this type of guru followership
okay.
in companies I've worked for in the past. And
Were they responsible for the destruction of the earth?
they, if I hadn't have killed them, they might have. And this happens. Like there are these groups, and the locale was just a beautiful interior of a building. I don't think that instead of where it would
in
actually
a conference
be
room.
right, it would be in a conference room. But this was a big open space, and they rented the Montgomery Park building, and so they because a later scene, a big section of the later scene takes place, and they're like,
Yeah.
hey, we've got this place for a week. Let's use that.
Right. Anyway, so that's the very first. We can add some.
Oh,
No. So yeah, that was the very first scene of the movie. But then they flash back to 200 years in the future, like we mentioned before.
actually, I was going to add something to that. Then.
Oh yeah.
So at the end of that scene, he's talking, and they're trying to set him up with, give you some of the ideas of the beliefs that he's expounding, and he just has, you can tell that what they were going for, but they didn't really know how to write it, and so he literally says that one of our tenets is, there are certain needs that outweigh the needs of others.
Yes, the needs of the leader or something. Yeah.
The way obviously it's like the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, but the way he says it was just so awkward.
They did a similar thing later with, and I don't know if it was on purpose or nobody caught it when they quoted "Hell hath no fury" like a scorned woman.
Like a scorned woman.
They
And I was
said.
like, dude, was that on purpose?
And I don't know. And I'm like, how could no one have caught that quote? Hell hath no fury, like a scorned woman. Or like if they were passing it off like they were the ones writing it. We'll just switch it around. No one will ever know.
I like to think the script was written correctly, but the actors just didn't care. And the people filming it also probably realized they said it wrong, and just nobody cared.
There were a few people. There were a few people I felt like cared in this movie, but there was a. I thought Kathy was great. The lead female character. I thought
Her
was
acting
fantastic.
was fantastic. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like a real actor.
Yeah, I wonder if I didn't look to see if she was local, if she was from somewhere else. But yeah, I thought she did a great for what she had to do. She did it in a very dignified and believable way, which I thought was pretty great.
Right.
Oh yeah. Well. So that's what I was saying. It had a couple bad movie tropes, and that was after that opening scene of them having their little clan meeting, or whatever. It wasn't a clan meeting, I guess. It was something at their little guru meeting. They a title, not a title screen, but it just goes and on-screen text comes and is read at you.
It was weird that was not the first thing that happened.
Yeah, so it happens that, and all of a sudden, I'll play it here. There's a slam cut into. Oh dang it! I don't have to do that over.
That was correct time.
That was not the volume. That was the slider, the scrubber.
Oh.
Right here. Hold on here. I'm gonna back it up a second.
Todd watched the movie in reverse.
I watched it all in reverse. It doesn't make any sense to me. So it goes on like that for like 4 pages. And
Yes.
she says so much at us to give us this exposition. And then the next thing I know is how, and I think it's because I was just finishing up dinner as the movie was starting, and then they do the opening credits or whatever. And I swear that I looked up and they're like, the first guy's name, whatever his name was. And I went to do something and came back like what felt like 5 minutes later, and they're still showing
Credits.
but the people's names, like like one screen at a time was, and I counted there were 15 credited actors up front before they did like the produced by or whatever. It just went on forever.
And each one was a planet flyby
Oh,
CGI.
Yes.
Right. That did take forever.
That was,
It was
so
impressive
long.
CGI.
It was, and like I said, yeah, all of that space stuff I thought looked really, really good. The ships looked cool when they were flying by, and
I almost feel like they stole it from some other movie and just repurposed
it could be that
felt like that.
it was somebody's property that was just laying around from something else. It was like ILM's test footage of something else that they discarded
Yeah.
and they picked up later.
Another cliche that I picked up on in this movie is you see it all the time where there's shootouts and so many bullets get shot and no one ever gets hit. Especially the good guys, you know, they'll just run straight into the gunfire. But it was to another level in this movie.
It was as if we're all sitting around the table that's maybe, 3 foot by 3 foot. It was as if we were shooting at each other with AK-47s and missing.
Right.
Like stormtrooper levels of
and then the
missing.
only person that gets hit is the one character that they were hoping to kill off in that
Right.
one little, like that in the initial house explosion scene where Kathy had that annoying boyfriend guy that was like, oh, now we're breaking and entering.
Oh, that was her partner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like he's just whiny.
There
and
were
then-
so many
Thank God he
pointless
got-
characters in this movie.
That scene, Mark, I noticed, so let's set this scene up. This is the first time that the Hitler assassins and the Suicide Squad actually meet in 1998 Earth.
Yep.
They converge on the house of John Bridges because they think that that's where they're going to find him and kill him and movie in. And then that's also, John Bridges ends up not being home, but his ex-wife does go there. Because his ex-wife is looking for something in the house, and that happens to be when everyone converges there. But she is there with her business partner, and he wants no part of this. And so they're standing there, and then the two sides meet, and they start to have a shootout. And then the first person that dies is her partner, who wanted no part of this. And he actually gets hit by both sides. They're just shooting bullets back and forth, and he's taking it from both sides.
He shot in the front and back, wasn't
Yes,
he?
yes.
Everybody hated
It's a
that
lot
guy.
of splits.
That guy was a dick.
They didn't
I like
mention
at
him
all.
again.
Oh my
What were
gosh,
they
it's so
there to
funny.
get? Did we ever learn that?
I don't think so. She just said something personal I had to
Right.
get.
Yeah, it wasn't really clear. It was her grandmother's house. That much was clear.
Yes.
She said that a lot.
Yeah.
Not his house.
Do you guys remember when so the bad guys in this movie, the quote unquote bad guys, the Hitler killers, who are inexplicably the bad
Well, they
bad
have German
guys.
accents.
They have
They
German
did
accents.
have,
We know
yes.
they're bad.
And not at all fake gray hair that they spray painted onto that one guy. But they steal one of the ships and they go back first or whatever. This is before
Right.
we meet the Suicide Squad. And there's like the actual pilot of the starship that's there is like, you can't come in here or whatever, and gets shot in the back and makes this tiny little noise. And the actor like does a great job of like falling and like making it all dramatic, and they just added a and I felt so bad for that poor guy
Right.
and his death scene of
Well, you don't piss off Foley artists.
no.
I mean, that's what happens.
And that was immediately followed. So, they're trying to escape to go back in time, and they're in a ship that's inside of another ship, and they blow a hole out the side of the other ship so that they can escape, and it creates a space vacuum, and this guy who's just standing there gets sucked out the hole. And then the ship turns and they start. They are shooting the guy as he's being sucked out of
They
the hole.
shot him in midair as
Yeah.
he's getting sucked into space. Even the main that was the secondary bad guy, and even the main bad guy did that. Oh my! What the world
Why'd
are
you do
doing?
that?
Like it gave him a sideways glance. Like, dude, come on, dude, calm down a little bit. And then somebody yelled, "Arcadian fire!" Did you hear that?
No.
I think one of the ships, the other ships, was called Arcadian because one guy just stands up and does "Arcadian fire," and I was hoping that Arcadia Fire would
Arcade
like,
Fire?
sample that. Yeah, or Arcade Fire would sample that somehow because it was pretty hilarious.
That's funny. One
Oh,
thing. Yep.
so right when they get to Earth, so they go through the little time portal and they land on Mount Hood somewhere in the snow.
Elliott Glacier.
Elliott Glacier. Oh yeah, they said that at the end, didn't they?
Yeah.
They, this movie had the balls to do a Reservoir Dogs.
Yes, I wrote that
walk,
down too. I was like, we can
slow motion.
We can thank Quentin Tarantino for this scene.
A slow motion walk of the four most absurd characters, including the clown faced, giant, bouffant haired woman, a man who's conservatively 55 years old, playing our action hero, a random minority that gets shot right away, and then the lunatic guy. But that was, I laughed out loud.
That's just another one of
when
those things
shot.
that every movie was doing.
Yeah,
at
I
the
guess that was
time.
1997. That was
Yeah.
like the thing to do. Oh my gosh, that was so funny.
I don't know if you noticed when we were first introduced to Kathy and she goes to work in her office. Did you notice how 90s that office was?
No.
If you click on the link in our document there that says 90s office, you can watch that scene.
I was like,
Yeah. And let's point out the 90s things that we see in this office. Oh, look, there's a Dilbert doll.
oh my gosh, you're right.
And what's that sitting there on the desk? That is, in fact, a Dilophosaurus Jurassic Park hologram. I had one of those myself.
Oh my gosh, you're right. I totally didn't see that. That is funny. And they just do typical. I was going to say I don't know what her job was, but that's a lie because that was what I started off the whole the whole show with her shouting at him what her real job was. She hold on. Now we have to find it again.
What do you...
And she's so busy she has an assistant.
That scene was amazing because it's like exactly what they needed at that moment. She's just like, I issue permits for electricity.
Yeah, so she walks into I'll back it up a little so you can hear this. So they're trying to figure out how to find, because all of a sudden, like you said at the beginning, if we didn't have enough plot already, we on top of this add a politician in who the bad guy Hitler killers want to replicate.
I couldn't understand why.
There's this whole thing about
John,
it just makes me tired.
we need a name for... Okay, so Hitler, John Bridges...
Okay, yeah.
He's not the one directly responsible for the rise of this movement. It's because of the political influence he was able to create through that U.S. senator from Oregon, they said. And I think his name was Jerry.
Yeah, something like that.
It's just like two levels of bad guys that they needed to kill, but the bad guys didn't actually want to kill the senator. They wanted to replicate his RNA or something.
So that I think somehow, because all the people going back in time, did those two also have the neck implants that would explode?
So,
because they
there were two different types of neck implants.
By the way, if you were thinking that this movie didn't have neck implants that would explode, it does.
So apparently in the future, everyone is born, they give you a bio implant where they can track you. It sounds like just a GPS tracker.
Yeah.
But then our Suicide Squad got special trackers that would explode in 40 hours.
But I thought the Hitler killers had that too, because at one point, the crazy clown lady said they ripped him out.
They ripped him out, and the reason they ripped him out is because the Suicide Squad was tracking them.
Right.
And so if they ripped him out, then they wouldn't be able to track them.
But then they said, well, then they can't survive another week.
Right. And for whatever reason, in the future, these trackers keep you alive, and when you don't have the tracker in, then you slowly die.
And so that's why I thought they needed to somehow replicate the politician so they could take over his body and live forever.
That's as close as I could figure out.
I had no idea why the politician was part of the movie.
Right, but why did it specifically have to be the politician?
Yeah, I know.
And then...
Okay. There were so many needless people, because there's also two FBI characters that don't really do anything.
You mean Smith and Wesson?
Oh my gosh. Characters named Smith, Officer Smith and Officer Wesson.
The movie even makes a joke about that.
And not even a good one, just like oh really? It's like, well, you named it. It was at least a joke, right? Yeah, or at least like introduce them out of order. Here's Agent Wesson and here's Agent Smith, so that at least the audience has something to like do while everything else is being spoon-fed it.
You know what that strikes me as? Those were placeholder names in the script, and then they were just too lazy to fill them in. We'll replace this with real names.
But this is terrible. These two names are terrible. What should we? Well, we'll just leave them in there. We'll fix that later. Oh, we didn't fix it later. That's our movie now. Oh, okay.
There's scene during the screening.
Oh,
we didn't
that's
change
right.
that.
So yeah, they're trying to figure out Kathy and main guy Rand are trying to figure out how to find the two Hitler killers now that they've kidnapped the guy and want to do. And so this is how they suss out. And they're by Skidmore Fountain, which I think looks great in this movie.
It did.
But how? Here it comes. I mean, if you look
need
up
more than 100 volts,
if you look up the term Deus Ex Machina when it comes to like screenplay
Yeah.
and stuff, like that is crazy.
I like how they also thought that the bad guys would have applied for a permit with the city of Portland. And we're going to need an electric permit here. We're going to be doing some RNA regeneration in our secret lab.
well, they catch themselves on that one.
They do.
They do.
Oh,
they,
that's
they
true.
do say, if they probably wouldn't do a permit, and then
she checks the illegal file.
and
or
so she
whatever.
goes to the cyber cafe and logs in to the city grid.
The Portland
The
Cyber Cafe.
Portland- yeah, it's-
That's a thing, guys. In 1998, we
Oh.
apparently
We
had.
did. I Gary. Oh yeah, we absolutely. did. And we'll get to the cafe and Uncle Bo Peep, but I lost
Just
it.
lost in Cyberpunk.
Yeah, so she's able to log into the Portland City power grid from this cyber cafe
To see who's been
to see
using.
who's been using more than 100 volts. Which
That's what I do for a living. I issue permits for people needing electricity.
There's only one spike in power here at all.
That
It's gotta
must
be
be
our
there.
guy.
That is the equivalent to the Jurassic Park. It's a Unix system. I know this.
Yes.
Can we talk about my favorite line in the movie now?
Ooh, yeah.
Yes.
What's that?
Okay, so the setup is that we need the characters are now back in 1998, and we need to establish that they are in fact from the future, and things are different, and
Yes.
they don't fit in well. And so they come up to a house, and parked outside of the house is a vehicle, and this is our character's reaction.
Okay. That's another terrible bad movie joke. Is doing
I didn't
doing little thing. They do it again when he's yelling, "Do you have a dynographic processor?" And it's why of all things that, and when they can't start the truck, she pulls out her little
Oh,
clown face, pulls out this little machine. Oh, I can start this 1983 Chevy pickup with my little computer.
It has no electronics.
It has no electronics.
whatsoever.
do you know what her little computer was?
No.
Not only did it look like a Star Trek tricorder, but it was a Star Trek tricorder. It was a 1993 Playmates Star Trek Next Generation tricorder toy. And the reason I was able to identify that is because I recognized the belt clip and battery compartment on the back, and they added some little doodads and extra lights on the top.
Oh my gosh, that is
Yeah.
amazing.
It is totally amazing.
Just spray plated. Oh, that is fantastic. I used to have this little Space 1999 little disc shooter guns.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, those
Oh,
were
yes.
awesome.
Yeah.
That is
from eBay.
Oh my
That's
gosh,
it.
Mark's showing a picture of the tricorder. That is exactly what
As
started
seen
that
in total reality.
1983 Chevy. Yeah, and they wander up to that house is when they first get to Earth, and they're poking around and they see the Turk, and then they also there's this beautiful empty log cabin that they continually access through the movie that no one's ever home at and
Right.
is ever locked.
It's one of those public Forest Service cabins
Yes, giant, beautiful
on the
home.
side of Mount Hood. Okay, so speaking of the Dynographic processor,
Yes.
if you click the link that says what is going on in this scene, this is during that scene when they are using Kathy's Dynographic processor.
Okay, so this is a legitimate.
I just want to, if you could tell me what is in the mouth of our character when that first pops up.
Okay.
You see that?
I did. I mean, play it again here. Hold on.
Just click the link and hit pause.
That is a dog bone.
That is a
like
dog
a dog
bone.
treat bone.
That's like a dog treat.
What
bone.
in the world? He is sitting. He's sitting at the. He's hacking or whatever he's doing,
He's hacking.
and he's chewing like
He's
one of the
crazy.
big bone dog treats.
Yep, in his mouth. It's like
Well, that
it's like a
doesn't make any sense at
It's like
all.
a dog chew toy.
Well, milk
He
bone.
is. He's sitting there. That reminds me. He's wearing. All the people on the Suicide Squad are wearing like dark green, forest green like vests, like the Marty McFly vest or whatever, and they have got black jumpsuit on underneath. And at one point before they go into a bar, they're pulling up in this car. So the guy who's 55 years old is there, and they're going to go into the bar, and Catherine stops them and says, "You can't go into the bar like that. He's just wearing a green vest." I mean, there was nothing like he wasn't at future stuff. It was like a dark green vest.
And he's
in
like,
Oregon.
Oh yeah, and then she gives him other clothes to
Yeah,
put on.
that looked just the same. There's
Just
not a whole
the
lot of different. You can't go in there like that with your dark green vest.
That's a fail between the script writer and
That he forgot to note.
The costume.
costume.
P.S. They should be wearing something crazy future. Yeah, I thought that was hilarious. You can't go in there like that. And then we met that horrible Marlena woman,
What?
which is the Marlo, the Marlo woman. I'm sorry, was that Freudian?
Yes.
The woman Marla, who was in the bar, like one of the friends of the guru writer that they met in the bar to try to find him.
Oh.
And it was her and
Yeah.
who was that guy? Just another friend? They just met those two random people in the bar.
It was
Yeah.
somebody that was supposed to know the location
Brian?
of John Bridges. Brian. Yeah.
Brian.
Brian and Marla. I at first thought Marla was also the same lady in the Futurescape cult thing that the clown faced woman ends up at.
You know, even though you split up with John, you can still learn a lot from his teachings, and it's just
She was.
like, where's Brian?
Oh, yeah, she was horrible. I forget if she's died. No, the annoying coworker of hers died. Like we said,
Yeah.
she was shot in the front
But
and
then
back.
Brian showed up, and he's like, I missed you. I really, really missed you. And like, what? What? Why?
It's so gross. Yeah, and then that's where they have the shootout in the pool hall or whatever, where he tries to do the cool action roll over the pool table and just sort of leans and tips.
So speaking of shootouts, did you notice in the beginning of the movie when they were in space and their guns would make laser sounds, and I couldn't really tell if they were supposed to be real guns or laser guns?
I think there was a mix. I think there were laser guns, but also AK-47s left over from this shooting of
It
Rambo.
was totally mixed up because when Michael Jerry, the congressman, gets stopped on the road, so his assistant gets out of the car and they shoot her with a bullet. They take the same gun over to him and they shoot
They
him with a
stunned
laser.
him.
Or stun.
Yeah.
And so like electric stun gun.
Yeah, it
takes
looked like they had some 200 years in the future. They're still using. using AK-47s.
Yep.
But the sound for those lasers was terrible.
And then it seemed by the end of the movie they just completely didn't care. They're just like, just guns.
Yeah.
They didn't want to have to Foley in all of the individual laser shots.
Right.
If they didn't have to. There was a really nice shot of the paper mill in this.
Yes.
Right before they did their walk and talk on the
Oh, really?
There's maybe a 3 or 4 second shot of it before they're walking down the railroad tracks and
Where
giving
they
us all that
appear at the
exposition.
railroad
yes,
tracks?
they fade in for some reason because
I
it's
missed
part of
that.
it. Yeah, they do this really long walk and talk where they give us a lot of exposition, and that's basically when they said the whole theme of this movie to come back and kill this self-help guru who wrote this book, who then was taken by a politician and turned back. The whole message was books are evil. Like, books and ideas need to be stopped. They are coming from the future. The Suicide Squad are coming from the future to stop Hitler killers, and their reason is because ideas and books are bad.
Well, Hitler did write Mein Kampf.
He did. But yeah, I just thought that was the craziest thing to like spend time on, letting us know that like it just seemed like a very strange message with all of this fascist undertone stuff, that their message was we need to stop this man from writing a book.
The message of this movie was I couldn't figure out what it was exactly.
That wasn't your job. There was a great moment when they were having a shootout in I think that same lobby that they had the book club in, and a guy fell off the balcony, and you said, "Whoa!" Like as he was plummeting to his death.
That was at the Don Campbell Hall of Montgomery Park, as it was so clearly labeled. Other Portland locations that we saw.
There's the big there was the final thing at the Hawthorne on the bridge.
Yes.
On the Hawthorne Bridge, right?
That was
Yep.
probably explosion 5 or 6.
Yep.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That was a fairly big one, and they jumped off. 2 people jumped
Two
off
people
the bridge too.
actually jumped off the
Yeah.
Hawthorne Bridge.
They had
Like,
2 cameras
Yeah.
set up to catch it.
I was really impressed by that.
Yeah, well, and when they had the scene, so they jump off, there's blah, 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 there's an explosion on the bridge. And 2 people fire directly at each other, only one of them gets hit, like we were saying.
Yeah.
So they jump off the bridge. Then there's the scene of them, crawling out of the bridge so they can
Then
steal.
the next morning,
Is it that? Well, yeah, I guess it's light all of a
it's
sudden.
light all of a
But
sudden.
you
So they've been
can-
Yeah,
swimming in the
all
river all
all
night.
night. But you can see when they're getting out, you can see their breath, like in real life.
Oh, yeah.
That must have been so cold for those poor and it wasn't stunt people, it was them crawling out of the river
Yeah.
some icy September morn.
Well, it's a good thing that they crawled out the river on Mount Hood and immediately went into a cabin where they could light a fire and get warm
Oh,
together.
that's right.
And he'll just rub her warm.
Yeah, and he was still soaking wet. I'm
And it's the same house from the beginning that
Yeah,
apparently
it's the
nobody
same
lives
one.
at with the Turk.
just gonna cuddle up to you in my warm clothing.
And I wrote down, I'm like, there is no way that fireplace started with just that one match. Because he like did the one little Nicky match and puts it in there, and all of a sudden,
Yeah.
like this big roaring fire in an abandoned house.
I gave that one a pass because I figured it could be a gas
It could be a
fireplace.
gas one, that's true.
But just the explosion on the Hawthorne Bridge, I'm looking at it right now. I got a screen grab, and it you know how the Hawthorne Bridge kind of has those humps to it.
Yeah.
That explosion fills up almost an entire length of one of those spans of the bridge.
Wow.
Like, what kind of permitting? I'm guessing they did not tell exactly what they were going to be doing on the bridge.
There'll just be
It's like
some
we're
pyro.
going to be filming on the
Right,
bridge.
Right.
Well, and I'm going frame to frame with the house explosion in the
To
in
see
the
how many
beginning.
people died.
The most impressive part of this movie is, to me, is the explosions without exception.
Yeah.
The house explosion includes the roof.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you're playing that slow motion. Of
Fantastic.
And
That is glorious.
it's kind of an octagon shaped part of the house.
We're going to make a GIF and put this on the website.
Oh, that's a good idea. We should make a GIF.
thank you.
It's
For
GIF, the creator of the format. calls
We'll
it
start.
GIF.
We'll start another podcast. Maybe a 3rd podcast just to talk about GIF versus GIF. Yeah, I would say the explosions would be by far. I mean, because they're so tactile and dangerous looking, because they are legitimately dangerous looking and dangerous.
All of that the house just coming right towards the camera.
Filled with balsa wood to shoot right out of the camera.
Wow.
So great.
I'm really, really sorry that this is the, at least to my knowledge, the only other film that Philip Roth made in
Portland.
Yeah.
Because he's made, did we talk about this on the show or not? He's made a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff specifically for the Sci-Fi Channel. And I would say the leap, so Fatal Revenge was in 89,
Right.
and this was in 97.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a considerable leap in competency, I would say, in between the two movies.
Sure,
'Cause the other one was
absolutely.
definitely, very down and dirty, very dumb.
I mean, he stored up like 8 years of propane for this movie.
We should really. I bet we could find someone to talk to that worked on this movie.
Probably. Well, I
Yeah.
imagine some of the actors are here because a lot of them were listed on Leverage still. And
Facebook, anyone? Give us a heads up.
Yeah,
Let
so
us know.
David Bradley, I found his Facebook page and I requested a friend.
which one was David Bradley?
The main guy.
Anthony
Oh, the
Rand.
American Ninja.
Yeah,
Yeah.
American
Oh,
Ninja.
he'll never get back to us.
Yeah,
Let's see.
no.
That's funny.
Maybe we could kickstart a sequel.
Oh, there we go. So, well, another thing that happened on the bridge. So the bad guys drive up on a car. There's a gunfight between Rand and the main bad guy,
Right.
Captain Greyhair. Captain Greyhair gets shot. One of the bullets makes the car explode. Blah blah blah. Then the two FBI, then Smith and Wesson get on the scene.
Right.
And the dead body, the bad guy, is laying on the bridge and then disappears, like in a little fiery, not like a fire, but like in a space pew type thing.
Right.
And then our main character, Rand, at the end,
At the end.
like wanders out into like an old cat, wanders into the forest to die.
And then
Our main
incinerates.
character, yeah, and does sort of like this yoga-y, I'm on my knees position. And the same thing happens. He like turns into fire.
Yeah, I don't
What's
understand.
happening? Are they dying? Are they being beamed back?
We never see them again.
And the
so-
two Smith and Wesson, as this body disappears in front of them, they're like, huh, did you see
Did
that?
you see that? Did you see, okay. First of all, why were they the first on the scene? How did they get the tip? They're
They're the-
investigators. They're
national
detectives.
FBI. They don't not necessarily the police scanner. I guess.
Right.
Ready to jump and
But
act.
the
They were
police
first.
weren't there yet.
The gun battle was still happening when
And-
they showed up.
You know, and I cross the Hawthorne Bridge all the time. Not another vehicle was on the Hawthorne Bridge that entire time.
Just
seems
walked up from Tom
impossible.
McCall Park.
And so then the next vehicle is Smith and Wesson. Seems
They were having a churro at the waterfront when they saw. But yeah, the body disappears, and they're like, "Huh? Did you see that?"
Yeah.
And that's it. That's all. I mean, their lives have just changed in seeing that. Like, nothing is the same anymore. People disappear, and they're just so non-flummoxed by it.
There was a fun Portland moment when every time we got to see a news reporter.
Oh yeah. Was
Yeah.
was she an actual news reporter? This one?
I
I
don't.
couldn't find her.
Yeah, I don't think so. But it was kind of funny because their microphone says like Oregon 12,
Yeah.
which was not Fox 12. It's just a generic Oregon 12.
Okay, that's
but I
what
love
I
that they
knew.
put her in a Columbia jacket to like give it.
Authenticity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of those deft touches that this
Paula
movie is known for.
And did you notice when they were doing the electricity hacking, the little cartoon graphic that popped up on the
Yep.
computer screen?
I
The little-
did see that.
Yeah. It flashed
Illegal
power
power
drain
drain.
Oh yeah,
detected
yeah.
in Portland.
That's another trope is like when you get screens like that just explicitly have a perfect warning for the thing that's happening now that was somehow designed in
Interpreted,
at
right.
some point. Well, we better put this warning in case this illegal power drain ever happens.
Yeah.
Illegal power drain.
Another trope that I caught in this movie is characters filling up dialogue and screen time just by repeating things previously said by other characters.
Do you have an example?
There's
of
an
that?
example, Todd. If you click the characters repeat things link, this is a really good one.
That's literally what I
And
did.
Should I keep playing?
No,
Okay,
click the
yeah.
other one. There's another link with another example. I swear, like half the movie is just characters repeating dialogue.
Which
'Cause they-
which one is it? I'm not seeing.
Oh.
With characters repeat things.
Yeah, there's two.
Oh, okay, I see. Oh, I just opened
That's-
that. I didn't open the first one.
We
We? She was so good in this, though.
need.
Oh, here's.
It's like she didn't know what to say.
Nuclear war.
You're right. This movie is just full of that.
It is.
Like one-sided improv, where the other person never
One-sided.
picks up the yes and. They just keep repeating it. They're like, no, you have to give me more. I can't just work on that. Oh man. What more do you say about this movie?
I don't know. Like I said, I kind of wish there was. I don't know what to look forward to in life now that we've completed.
So did you enjoy watching this movie more than you enjoyed watching Fatal Revenge?
I can't say I enjoyed it more, but I enjoyed it differently.
Absolutely.
Like Fatal Revenge, I was not watching that to be entertained by a movie. It was just a collection of scenes and bad acting that together were
And
entertaining.
explosions.
This, on some sort of bad movie level, was entertaining to me as a movie.
Interesting. Okay.
Like, it didn't necessarily all make sense, but I liked where it was going. It had some interesting ideas, and there were some scenes in Portland.
It kind of seemed like a senior project, like a high school senior project of, okay, we've spent this quarter talking about these 12 movies. Now you make a movie, right? And so the dialogue is stilted, and the continuity is weird, and the stuff. But they had like a big propane budget, and
We need more
things
propane.
that they had seen in other movies, and they pieced it together. Not elegantly, perfectly, but it's followable.
Yeah.
And you have a like it has an arc. Unlike
Yes.
Breaking In, like this actually has development
Right.
and conclusion.
I did have to say, and I don't know if it's good or bad. I think I kept getting wrapped up in the storyline enough that I kept forgetting it was filmed in Portland.
Yeah.
Like they would all of a sudden go back to. I was like, oh
Yes,
yeah, this
yes.
is filmed in Portland. I forgot.
I had
about
that experience too, and it would be like these. It almost took me out of the movie to see them in Portland all
Yeah,
of a sudden.
I'm trying to think of so the other locations that they had.
They
There was
were-
another one that was down on like not First.
Ankeny Square, Skidmore Fountain.
Well, that one, and then a little further down the Max track. I used to get my haircut.
You're talking about
there,
at
but I can't.
nighttime?
Yeah.
There's one where they were, I think, leaving the bar.
Leaving the bar is what I'm thinking of, and I used to get my
Yeah.
haircut on that corner, but I can't remember what it was. I think the old McCormick and Schmick's was there.
I couldn't place it exactly where it was, but it kind of struck me as somewhere near like.
Yeah. I thought best of all though the Skidmore fountain scene was looked great. I
It did,
thought.
yeah.
So and there was another like when the car exploded, not the house, but there's another car that explodes, and they were up on a hill somewhere that overlooked a lot of the area, but I
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
sure which side of the city that was on.
I saw that as well. It looked over to downtown, and
From the
so
east or from the
somehow
west? Like,
s-
was it from the West Hills or was it somewhere out, like
you
by
could see the river.
205
You
somewhere?
could see the river. So it was from the east side, from
Okay.
the southeast somewhere.
Okay.
But I can't place where
Yeah.
that would be, where it was kind of a slope.
Yeah, and there's a couple cool. They did a couple transition shots where it was like the freeways kind of sped up, or like downtown traffic
Yeah.
kind of sped up, and I thought
Well-
those looked really neat.
Yeah, it
Couple
definitely
of B-roll.
it definitely felt Portland, and it wasn't as good as the hunted level of Portland.
Right.
But I'd say it
But
was.
this was a gritty, a
Did
gritty.
they ever mention Portland by name?
They did.
Well, I guess the television anchor.
Yep, and
They did kind of,
Yeah.
incidentally, and I think on that
Yep.
warning sign too.
Yeah.
It wasn't a big like we're in Portland
Right,
type
that's
thing.
true.
Like they did
yeah.
keep coming back to it.
Oh, they did say Burnside
Oh,
when
they
they
did,
were
yeah, that's
driving.
right.
Yeah, they were like,
They're
"Oh, our
going
next
to
project
Burnside.
site is on Burnside."
Yeah.
You're going the wrong way. Well, I can drop you off right here.
Oh, that's right. That was so irritating.
Going back to your thing, Mark, you said it felt like a school project. It felt like that, and the teacher told him, really good characters will have quirky traits. Every character has to have their own quirky trait.
Yes.
And so they wrote in that Rand's quirky trait was that he made flowers out of tissue paper.
Yes! He is sitting in prison making delicate little white paper roses.
There was no
And there-
payoff.
So is
There
that
wasn't a payoff.
well was
Well, beauty.
well beauty was that a call to or nod to
City of Roses.
yes and
I think we're giving it a little too much credit, but
yeah, the City of Roses, coupled with the one that's having the remake done with Harrison Ford and the
The Fugitive.
Sabrina?
no, there's a remake coming.
Witness?
Blade Runner?
Blade Runner.
Yes!
Oh.
Blade Runner's coming out. And
Ryan 1, Todd 0.
I was gonna say how long we can go.
Think of Harrison Ford
yeah.
remakes.
Edward James Olmos always made the little origami things.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
as
of
like
course. Mate,
Thanks.
I bet you anything that's why.
yeah, and so he was always leaving these roses behind.
But he didn't.
And-
He just made right. They were
think
never
he-
part of the plot.
I think he made one more at the bar, but
Yeah, he made one. One showed up outside of prison or whatever. And oh man, that's so funny. Now all I want to do is think of other Harrison Ford movies. Sabrina.
Mark, did we talk about the Internet Cafe actually?
No. So they go into the internet cafe in the middle of the movie to track the electricity spikes to find out who's using all the voltage, which I wanted to punch them. Voltage is not what you're measuring here. Current is what we're trying to measure.
Draw. Perhaps.
Or power ultimately. But when they walk up, so it's Kathy and our main
Rand.
Rand.
Land,
and so
I
they
guess.
walk into a cyber cafe in the middle of the night, and she gets onto a computer, and he walks up behind some creeper guy, and we get to see what he is looking at. And I took a screen grab of that, and that is the.
So what were people in 1997 in a cyber cafe looking up?
Yeah, so it's a customized version of Netscape. The Netscape logo has been replaced with the logo from the production company.
Oh wow!
of the movie.
Wow, they put some effort into
They
that.
Easter egg.
Yeah, and the webpage that they're looking at is www.uncle_beau_peep.com/products.html.
Can you even have underscores in URLs?
No.
Well,
No, you can't. You
I guess
dashes.
they didn't have to worry about.
Didn't have to
people.
worry about that. And you're.
That's how they solved the problem. They found their way around the 555.
That's really amazing. And so it was Uncle Bo Peeps Deluxe, and it's
Triple X.
Deluxe has 3 X's in it. Inflatable sheep, and so it's a product purchase page for buying your own inflatable sheep.
Inflatable sheep.
So it's pretty much what you would expect someone to be looking at in an internet cafe in 1998.
1997.
Pretty much.
So the one guy who gets killed first, the Suicide Squad, his name was
The bald guy?
Uriah.
Oh,
He was the
Mario Lopez.
His name was Malik Malkazian, and he has worked on
Holy
Avengers, Edge of Tomorrow, Maleficent. He went into visual effects.
Huh.
He's been an actor in some things, and he'll show up. He was on Leverage, so I'm wondering if he is still local somewhere. But he did the visual effects. I think previs. So yeah, if he's a conceptual artist, then that would make sense for Avengers, for Maleficent, for Warcraft, the beginning.
That's
so
cool.
that's pretty interesting because he was the first one to die in this, and he was the one that seemed to have the longest outstanding career, and he escaped this movie. There was one other thing that there's as we said, several explosions. There's one when they're in the second story of the house and they fly through the balcony, and there's another one where do they escape the cyber cafe in A Hail of Gunfire? Or is it the bar? It's either that or the bar.
It's the bar. It's the bar.
Both times, Catherine runs through the door, and jumps, and both times Rand throws himself through a plate glass window when there is an open door 2 feet away.
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
Both times he just
It's
goes flying through the plate glass window
Yeah,
next
he
to
has
a
the
door.
option of the door right next to the window.
It's like the thing in Police Squad, Naked Gun, where they've got a door in the middle of the room and they just walk through it and it's no.
And
I laughed so hard on that when I
feel
saw
like-
it the second time.
I feel like one of the times he does that, he kicks it first.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Oh man, I laughed so hard.
That was good.
Any other thoughts? Would you recommend? Because it is free on YouTube.
Yeah. If you're listening to this podcast, absolutely yes, I would recommend this movie.
Yeah, I would
I
too.
would too.
It's free and it's a good little background movie. It is a very Sci-Fi Channel movie, so it's very watchable in that way. And like I said, I was pretty impressed with some of the spaceship shots and that. There's other terrible special effects in it, but some of the space battles are pretty good. So
I just hope we find another director who can do Portland as much justice as Philip has.
Yeah. He's really shown some Portland love there. I wonder if he's probably of all these bigger movies that we're doing, the only local director that's been doing some of these movies. Anyway. Well, that was a conversational path to nowhere, wasn't it?
Thanks, Todd.
Oh, there you're showing
Windgate
Windgate
so cringy.
with her gigantic